Welcome back to the show. Today, we're diving into a topic that's really making waves across Australia: the widening wealth gap between older and younger generations. We'll explore how self interest in housing policy is playing a crucial role in this issue. It's a topic that intertwines with homeownership, taxation, and most importantly, intergenerational fairness.
When we think about home ownership, we often think of it as part of the Australian dream. But did you know that home ownership among young Australians has dropped to its lowest level since the late 1940s? That's a staggering fact, especially in a country that prides itself on this dream.
Exactly. And when we look at the statistics, it's clear there's an alarming pattern. Older generations, particularly those over 65, are holding a disproportionate amount of the nation's housing wealth. It's almost like they've hit the jackpot in a game of Monopoly, while younger players are just trying to purchase their first property.
That's a perfect analogy. The older generation has benefited from decades of rising property prices and tax breaks. Meanwhile, younger Australians are often told to save harder or make lifestyle sacrifices just to catch a glimpse of that dream. It feels like a rigged system where the rules favor those who already have.
So let's break this down a bit. What do economists say about this situation? They're suggesting that the wealth gap isn't merely a result of high home prices, but also of policies that protect existing homeowners. Older Australians are motivated to maintain policies that keep property values high because it benefits them directly. It's a classic case of self-interest at play.
Right. And this self-interest also shows up in voting behavior. Older homeowners make up a significant voting bloc, and they have a powerful incentive to ensure that tax breaks and benefits remain in place. This creates a disconnect where the political system caters more to their interests than those of aspiring young homeowners.
In fact, when politicians do address the needs of first home buyers, they often backtrack on reforms that could hurt existing homeowners. For example, ideas like reducing tax breaks for property investors or loosening zoning laws to allow more housing developments are frequently met with strong opposition. It's no wonder younger Australians feel like the odds are stacked against them.
And it's not just about the financials. There's an emotional and psychological component too. Younger Australians are increasingly questioning the fairness of the system. They see their parents and grandparents benefiting from large, often tax-advantaged property gains, yet they're told to simply work harder or sacrifice their daily coffees to afford a home. That kind of hypocrisy can really erode trust in institutions.
That brings us to the concept of intergenerational trust. If the sentiment persists that the system is rigged in favor of the older generations, we risk fostering resentment between age groups. This is not just an economic issue, it's a societal one. Governments need to acknowledge this dynamic to bridge the gap and rebuild trust.
Absolutely. It's not too late, though. Some economists suggest potential policy changes could address this imbalance. For example, instead of relying on stamp duty, which is a hefty upfront cost that deters first home buyers, we could shift to broader-based land taxes. This way, the financial burden is more evenly distributed over time and impacts those with multiple properties more heavily.
That's one approach. Another option could involve reintroducing inheritance taxes, which exist in many developed countries. While this idea might be politically explosive given its historical context in Australia, it could help slow the concentration of wealth passed down through generations. This could level the playing field for younger Australians.
It's crucial to consider how we conduct urban planning as well. Many zoning laws are restrictive and limit the development of new housing in key areas, leading to less supply and consequently inflated prices. Loosening those regulations, combined with smart infrastructure investment, could create opportunities for younger families to access affordable housing options closer to work and essential services.
I love that perspective. Can you imagine if we had more inclusive planning policies? Younger Australians could find homes within their budget, contributing to vibrant and diverse communities instead of being pushed to the urban fringes. This could foster a sense of belonging and security for all generations.
And it all circles back to responsibility. For homeowners, it might mean supporting reforms that genuinely help others access the same opportunities they've enjoyed. For younger Australians, it's about staying informed, advocating for policies that create a fairer housing landscape, and actively participating in the voting process.
What's insightful here is that if we address wealth sharing and affordable housing seriously, we may reignite the social contract that connects all generations. It's about ensuring everyone, regardless of their age, feels invested in the same system and that their voices matter.
So, where does that leave us? If you're listening today, we encourage you to reflect on your perspective on home ownership and policy. Perhaps it's time to think about how your choices, whether voting or otherwise, impact not just your future, but the futures of younger generations.
Exactly. The wealth gap in housing is not just a statistic, it's a reality that affects real lives every day. Let's work together to push for policies that dismantle these barriers. If this conversation resonated with you, share it with someone who cares about the future of housing in Australia. Thanks for tuning in today, and we hope to catch you in our next episode.